find out as Romans 8:38-39 assures us that nothing can separate us from the love of God. A verse that brings peace and hope to all circumstances. Hey guys! Today we will dive into Romans 8:38-39, a verse that brings us the certainty that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Let's reflect together on this powerful and comforting message. In part 1, we exploit the depth of what the statement means that even death can separate us from God's love. Even in the face of the greatest mystery and transition most feared by humanity, divine love remains unshakable. Death, which often scares us and brings us uncertainties, has no power over the eternal bond that God has established with us. It is a comforting reminder that even at the end of earthly life, we are involved in a love that transcends all barriers and accompanies us to eternity. In part 2, we will explore how earthly life, with all its complexities and challenges, is not able to move away from God's unconditional love. Even in the most difficult and tumultuous times, where pain and suffering seem to prevail, divine love is still present and active in our lives. Whatever the circumstances we face, whether they are joys or sorrows, victories or defeats, God's love remains constant and unshakable. It is a comfort to know that in the midst of the uncertainties of life, we can trust the eternal love that sustains us and guides us in every way. In part 3, let us reflect on how angels in heaven, not even principalities or powers, have the power to break the bond of divine love with us. Even the most powerful and high heavenly forces are submissive to God's unconditional love. This shows us that there is no hierarchy or authority that may overcome the magnitude and scope of this divine love. It is comforting to know that we are protected and involved in a love that transcends even the highest spheres in the universe, ensuring security and peace in the midst of any challenge or adversity. In part 4, we will reflect on how the present and the future, as uncertain as they may seem, are involved and permeated by the eternal love of God. As we face the uncertainties of tomorrow and deal with today's challenges, we can be sure that divine love accompanies us in every step of the journey. No matter what obstacles we find on the way, God's love is the anchor that keeps us firm and safe, guiding us with hope and confidence for what is to come. In the midst of the vicissitudes of life, we are sustained by a love that transcends time and assures us that nothing can separate us from the constant and welcoming presence of Heavenly Father. In part 5, let's reflect on how the highest heights and the darker depths are not barriers to God's infinite love for us. Even when we feel lost in the heights of joy and exaltation, or when we dive into the depths of sadness and despair, divine love continues to constantly and unwavering us. No matter how high we reach our achievements or how deep we fall into our afflictions, God's love remains unchanged, accompanying us in all circumstances. It is comforting to know that we are loved beyond our achievements and failures, beyond our joys and sorrows, for God's love transcends any earthly limit, ensuring security and comfort in the midst of the most radiant heights and the dumbers of life. In part 6, we will reflect on how the presence or absence of angels, whether visible or invisible, does not have the power to interrupt the constant flow of divine love in our lives. Even if we are surrounded by heavenly beings or feel alone in a spiritual desert, God's love continues to flow uninterruptedly, enveloping us with His grace and mercy. No matter if we are surrounded by a multitude of glorious angels, or if we walk lonely in the silence of the night, the love of God is the light that guides us and the force that sustains us. It is comforting to know that we are loved unconditionally, regardless of the external circumstances or the heavenly presences around us. In Part 7, we will explore the depth of the promise contained in Romans 8:38-39. Nothing created, not even the most powerful forces of this world, have the power to separate us from God's unshakable love. Whether adverse circumstances, insurmountable challenges, or evil forces that rise against us, certainty remains divine love is stronger and longer than any obstacle that may arise in our path. It is a comforting reminder that we are involved in a love that transcends our own existence, ensuring security and protection in the midst of life battles. May this promise strengthen us and fill us with hope, knowing that we are loved beyond any earthly measure. In Part 8, we will deepen our understanding of how Romans 8:38-39 reveals to us the unshakable faithfulness of God's love in the storms of life. This verse assures us that even when we feel weak and helpless, divine love remains a safe and constant refuge. He is the anchor that keeps us firm in the face of adversity, the light that illuminates our darkest paths, and the hope that sustains us in the midst of uncertainties. As we meditate on this deep truth, we are remembering that we are not alone in our struggles, but we are loved by a God whose love transcends all human understanding. May this certainty strengthen us and console, renewing our faith in the promise that nothing can separate us from this unconditional and eternal love. In Part 9, let us reflect on how the certainty of God's unshakable love in Romans 8:38-39 invites us to live with courage and hope in the face of the adversities of life. When we understand that nothing can separate us from this divine love, we are strengthened to face challenges with faith and confidence. Even in the most difficult and turbulent moments, we can find comfort in the certainty that we are loved in an incomparable and eternal way. May this truth inspire us to live each day with gratitude, knowing that we are involved in a love that transcends all circumstances and sustains us in the midst of storms. May the conviction of God's unconditional love be our anchor the hours of distress and our light in darkness, guiding us to a life full of meaning and purpose. In Part 10, we will reflect on how God's unshakable love in Romans 8:38-39 invites us to live with courage and hope in the face of the adversities of life. This verse reminds us that we are loved in such a deep and complete way that nothing in this world can separate us from this love. Even when we feel weak, lost, or discouraged, we can find strength in the certainty that divine love is constant and eternal. He supports us in times of tribulation and fills us with peace in the hours of uncertainty. May this conviction be our anchor in the storms of life, guiding us safely and confidence for a future full of hope and purpose. If you have also been encouraged by this message, share this video with someone special and spread the love of God. I hope they were blessed by this reflection. Always remember, nothing can separate us from the unconditional and eternal love of our Heavenly Father. Until the next video, stay in peace.